Coming to you from the Loading Ready Run orbiting underground moon base, it's the LRRcast.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, wait. I almost forgot
Pro tier beatboxing.
You almost forgot.
to do the annoying thing that you hate.
Someday you will forget. Hey, everybody, it's the Loading Ready Run podcast. I'm Graham.
I am Paul.
I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Ian.
Yay!
Woo.
And we're here to tell you about Jorbs.
Dirty Jorbs.
Darty Jorbs.
Some of them dirty.
Dargan Jorbs.
Probably not a lot, but more. I think we're going to go for like weird jobs, or just even interesting, unusual.
This was a suggestion from Paul, actually, who was like, we should talk about jobs that we've done before, or I mean, I guess since Loading Ready Run, but for a lot of us, it was before, before getting to the point that we're at now. Because a lot of people ask us, what are your guys' day jobs? And for a lot of us, this is it.
Yeah.
But prior to now, yes, we had other things. I should.
We're all people who needed to earn money in various ways, and while we earn our. Although I could say this definitely qualifies as a weird job.
Yeah, but
everybody knows about this job.
Exactly.
So it's not exciting.
Who wants to go first with a weird or bad older job?
Do you want to kick us off, G?
Sure. I was trying to think of actually what I should go with. How much have I talked about working at the DMV, such as it is?
I think it's mainly the stuff you've said is around, it being terrible.
Yeah, it subsists largely in the realm of complaints, I would say.
Yeah, it wasn't a great job.
Wasn't it even? Yeah, I think you even mentioned it or it came up in like a Hustle or something at one point.
I think
didn't
so.
It?
Yeah, I went through this series of realizing that I was qualified enough to earn better money than I was. So like I was working at Electronics Boutique or GameStop if you're from the States, and they were really pushing us to sell the EB Edge cards, but we didn't get anything out of that because they those used to be on commission years ago, but then they stopped doing commission for them. They were just like stats that you had to hit.
Right. So it's not so much commission; it's that you get fired if you don't.
Yeah, but I was really good at doing that, and so I was like, I should work somewhere where I do get commission. So I moved on to working for Rogers Wireless, which is one of our big cell phone providers, where I did get commission. And
you were good at that.
And I was. But then Matt was like, you should get a summer job at ICBC because you get paid this much. And I was like, oh, that's actually more than I'm getting now. Sweet. And so I did. And so ICBC is the
wait, does ICBC have commission as well?
No, it was just on like a summer student contract, like entry level. It was just more than I was making at Rogers.
Even with commission?
Yeah. So ICBC is the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, and the way it works here is that if you need car insurance, you do it through ICBC.
It's a weird sort of half privatized, half it's
they're what's called a crown corporation because they are run independently by the government.
But they're run independently, but the government gives them a monopoly.
Basically, yeah.
They say you have to have insurance and it has to come from ICBC, but they don't. But ICBC is technically a separate company.
Yeah, I tell you,
it's silly.
It took me a single episode of watching Storage Wars. No, not Storage Wars. Parking Wars on TLC one day to realize that a privatized insurance provider is actually, or the non-privatized, the Crown Corporation is the better way to go, because if you get privatized insurance, it's awful. Because then they only want to get all your money.
Well, I mean, Ian, you lived in Alberta. You had privatized insurance. How was that?
That was fantastic. You could shop all day to find absolutely no good insurance for nowhere near affordable. Here it was one choice, and here's all the extras we can give you. No, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, you can find out that the insurance isn't very good and it's not affordable very quickly here.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's more affordable here, though, right?
But I'm paying slightly less for it.
Hey,
Yeah.
the system works.
We did it.
Is your coverage better?
It's about the same, actually.
Hey, who says we need capitalism? Communism all the way. Privatize everything. That's the moral of today's LRRcast. Karl Marx signing off.
Now, let me tell you, it's the power company, which is also privatized, which is even better here.
So a lot of people in our province don't like ICBC for the reason that all their auto insurance is through it, because they have to, anytime they have to make a claim, they're fighting with ICBC, who of course is in their best interest to pay out as little as possible, et cetera, because it's an insurance company and they suck. But ICBC also does a lot of other important jobs, such as the accounting for the government. And one of the things that they do is they process tickets. So I worked for a summer in ticket payment processing, which is if you are anywhere in the province and you get a ticket for something. So like
like a hunting violation?
Yep.
A speeding ticket?
Speeding ticket.
A boating ticket?
Yep.
A fishing license gone wrong?
Yep.
Cycling without a helmet.
Yes.
If my truck is overweight?
Yep.
Basically any situation where you would pay a fine. Eh?
Yeah. Then you take the ticket that the cop has written you. You write a check, you put them both in an envelope, and you mail it to 3 people in Victoria.
I guess the idea is that like 75% of the tickets are for traffic violations anyway, so they might as well handle the rest.
Yeah.
Is the idea.
Yeah. And what people don't realize is that ICBC runs the ticket payment processing at a loss because the government gets all the money. They're just the accountants, and they have to do it. And so that department operates at a loss.
Right, because obviously you're not pulling in any revenue. All you are doing is processing things, but the money doesn't go back to ICBC.
The people who are writing those tickets do not believe that ICBC doesn't keep that money. They would have you believe that ICBC wrote them the ticket themselves. But no, the government decides what is and is not illegal, and the government decides how much you have to pay if you do the illegal thing. And ICBC just literally does data entry. This is what I did. It was data entry. The first day I was there, because what it is you start your day, you get a stack of envelopes out of the safe, and you open every single one, and you go like, all right, here's the ticket, here's the check. You call up the ticket number, and then you say, there's the thing relating to their driver's license, and they've paid it. That's in an ideal world how it should go.
Is that basically you call it up and you change the not paid to paid?
Yes. In an ideal world,
right?
But usually,
in an ideal world, there would not be an ICBC though.
Yeah,
so here we are.
So the first day I was there, I opened an envelope addressed to the Insurance Corporation of Crooks and Assholes, and they had
Crooks
stapled
and assholes.
Yeah, it doesn't fall.
Yeah,
it's ICBC. No, it doesn't work.
That could have been. I feel like they could have done that. Yeah.
Insurance Corporation of Bloody Criminals.
Yeah,
that would have been better. But this guy wasn't
Bastards
very creative.
And criminal. Yeah, there's all sorts of things you could do.
So they'd put the ticket and the check together and stapled it like 15 times. So I had to pull the staples out.
I was about to ask, what's the most interesting thing you found in an envelope that wasn't a check?
The guy who taped bugs to it.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
He taped dead insects to his check.
Yes.
They may have been alive at the time.
Who knows?
That's cruel.
There's no white powder or anything.
No. But there was so the problem is when someone doesn't.
By the way, if you're an adult thinking about taping insects to a check because you're feeling salty, you are not an adult.
Well, because no one wants to take.
Don't do that.
No one wants to take responsibility, right? They're like, I got this ticket because the cop was having a bad day, or the cop
and he
has
caught
to.
me while I was speeding.
Or the cop has to fulfill their quota, which cops in BC do not have quotas.
Also, it's the thing with as with the vast majority of these things, down to yelling at telemarketers on the phone, the person who you're punishing is in no way anywhere in the hierarchy of people who could actually help you with the problem.
Yeah, let me get on the phone to the government and tell them to change the speeding limits.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening a lot of the time though is because the way that the tickets work is it's like, I don't remember the exact amounts, but it's say you get a speeding ticket and it's like for excessive speed, and it's $67 if you pay within the next 2 weeks, and after that it's $94. It was like around that, I think. That was for like regular speeding. Excessive speeding was actually like way more than that. Like excessive speed was actually an incredibly expensive fine.
Is that
That's like
over
if you're going
50
like
above
180 or something.
Limit or something?
Yeah,
like
it's if you're like hauling ass.
Right.
And normally, even if you are excessive speeding, cops usually won't bust you for it.
Just normal speeding.
Source tickets.
So What happens though is that
You put bugs on your thing, didn't you?
No, I paid my ticket
If
because I was
people-
glad not to get an excessive speeding fine.
what happens though is people pay they pay the lesser amount outside the window. And no one will believe this, but we were actually incredibly generous with giving people the benefit of the doubt, right? Like we were like, okay, they paid the lower fine for paying within 14 days, but that was weeks ago. But let's see when we'd get the envelope, look at the ship date, and if they mailed it on the day, we would give it to them.
Wow.
Which is not what you're supposed to do. It's supposed to be if we receive it, right? But if they mailed it that day, we're like, fine. But if they didn't,
I mean, what are you going to do?
you're going to phone them.
Oh, no.
Oh boy.
Yes. You have to call
Were
up
they
their
mad
driver's
salty?
license. No one likes hearing that. Like, hi,
You
this
owe us
is Graham.
$26 more.
Calling from ICBC. I've got your check here. You didn't pay within the thing, so you owe us another $30 or whatever. No one's happy to hear that.
I put that in the mailbox on the day at
It's
midnight on the
ma'am,
last
I'm
day.
looking at the envelope right here, ma'am. It says,
It's postmarked.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
8
like
months after you
your
received your
issue
ticket.
is with the post office then.
yeah. And it's just like, I tell you, the easiest ones, the people who you would never have an argument with, was shipping companies. And so you know how there's the scales on the highway, right? That like the trucks have to pull over and get weighed.
Right, so they don't collapse bridges.
Exactly. The fines for being overweight are insane. It is a per kilogram fine. And it's like you can rack up hundreds of dollars if you're like a couple, like like if you're like a little overweight, like a little in the grand scheme of a semi truck, right?
Right.
And you call a shipping company and they're like, hey, you know, you haven't paid your like you sent it. What happens a lot is someone mails the ticket back but doesn't send a check. And so it's like, hey, you know, we're looking for this thing. You can send a check or you can pay it by credit card over the phone right now. And the shipping companies would be like, yep, no problem, here.
Just like cost of doing business.
Yeah, they're just like, whatever, it happens.
We got caught.
Yeah, and it's really crazy.
What's the biggest fine you ever saw for a truck?
It was probably like $800. It was really crazy.
That actually sounds not that bad.
I was thinking
On a
it'd be
corporate level.
thousands.
I think it might have been.
I mean,
actually. Maybe I'm
considering
thinking
the
something
value
else.
of the cargo for some of those trucks, yeah.
Like that sounds like they hit.
Oh
probably
no,
the
I'm thinking.
table.
Sorry. The $800 was actually fines for. It was actually fines for health violations for a restaurant.
Ooh,
Yes,
Ah.
a restaurant in Vancouver.
Do you keep a little notepad of the places that have the fines for health violations?
I did at the time. Anything in BC, you can just go read online now. Though you can see when they've had their last updates or whatever. I'm pretty sure I've told this before in some sort of like maybe at a panel or something. But my favorite actual fines, because normally the vast majority, I would say 80% of the fines of the tickets that we got
We're just like traffic tickets?
were either for specifically speeding or not wearing your seatbelt. I would say that was 80% of what we got. And a lot of the speeding tickets were from northern BC and Alberta drivers. Because they would just haul ass across the provincial border and the RCMP would be like,
In defense of people who are in northern British Columbia, there's not much around and not much traffic, and it's very large. So it takes a long time to go anywhere unless you're speeding.
I can tell you, I as a former Albertan, I was very excited last night when I was driving up past Nanaimo to hit that one patch of 120 kilometers per hour
yeah.
here on the island. Ooh.
I just hope it concerns me that the excessive speeding and the not wearing the seatbelt tickets going to the same person.
That happens sometimes too.
Yeah.
Oh.
This was before.
Wear your seatbelt, kids.
This was before distracted driving was actually a fine, which is like texting or using your phone when you're
Right,
driving.
right.
So I probably would have seen a lot of those too, but I didn't at the time. So the weirdest ones that I saw. So Matt actually for a period of time worked in that same department, not at the same time I did, like a year or two before I did. Then he moved on to other places in ICBC, and thank God for him, he doesn't work there anymore. But the weirdest one he saw was a fine for attach thing to structure. Which I'm
you got
pretty
me to sit
certain
up straight.
I'm pretty certain was the cop being like, that's illegal, but I don't know why. So I'm just going to write this on the form and give you this ticket.
And they paid it.
And they paid it. I got the two that I got. They were actually both hunting infractions. One was illegally removing the testicles from a bear.
Oh, poaching.
Yeah, because they and it's not killing the bear, because you can have a hunting license to kill a bear, but you can't kill the bear, take its balls off, and leave. Right?
Or
that's illegal.
Or take the
you got to deal
balls
with
without killing the bear.
Well,
I'd like to see you try.
Yeah, you got to deal with the bear if you kill it. And the other one was failure to record length of adult Chinook salmon caught in non-tidal waters.
Oddly specific. But
It was weirdly
fairly-
specific. Yeah, I don't know why that was so important.
So what was the best part of that job
I mean,
aside from leaving?
best part of the job. I don't know.
Was there a good
when you're
part?
dealing with the kind of like, phone center abuse that you do when you're having to phone people, when someone, it's the Schadenfreude of when someone is a massive asshole and you just have them caught in the situation that sorry, you just have to pay this, and they're being an asshole to you. It's just sort of like, okay, good. Right? Like, we got there. There was one where someone...
It's not like, I'm sorry you have to pay this, but I am, a single mother with 5 children and stuff, where if it's just like some asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
It's much better.
There was one that was the guy, he was getting red light camera tickets, and he mailed them back to us, which you're not supposed to do anyway, or at least at the time you were supposed to do, with like a letter being like, I'm not paying this, how dare you, whatever. And I'm looking at the things, and I'm like, this dude blew through the same, there's photos of it, he blew through the same red light every morning for a week. It was $92 a pop. Right? And it's like
5 days of that?
it's like, dude, you sent us the photos. Like, I can see this. Like, normally I wouldn't have access to them, but it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, because the way that they do it is that they send you 2 photos, right? Which is they send you a photo
Of you and then of your thing, isn't it?
no, it's 2 different wide shots, because it's a wide shot of you in the intersection when the light is red, and then a shot of you before entering the intersection when the light is red, to show that that it's not a situation of
Where the light went red while you were driving
exactly.
through.
So it's not a situation of it's yellow, I can make it. Then you enter the intersection and then it goes red.
And then you could the camera fires or whatever.
Yeah. So it's like no, it was red before you entered the intersection, so you should have stopped. Right? It's like proof that you really messed this up. And this guy's like, I'm not paying this. And it's like, we literally have a photo of you doing this.
Did he eventually pay it?
I think so. I don't know. There was.
Did you have to call him up though?
I can't remember. I don't know. This was a while ago. Some of the weirder things was there was a note that I got once that was like, it was a ticket for, I think it was a red light camera ticket, and it was the note was from a guy, and the car was his mom's, and the mom hadn't needed the car, so donated it to like a community center. And one of the daycare workers,
but didn't change the registration on it.
apparently. But one of the daycare workers at the community center used it to get herself to and from work, and her druggy boyfriend stole it and knocked over a 7-Eleven and ran the red light while they were getting away.
Wow,
Was the story in the note?
that is complicated.
Yeah, and I was like, I am going to go to my supervisor. And I went to the guy, Sean, I think his name was, and I was like, what do we do here? And he's like, I
mean,
don't know.
You don't really
got to charge it. Like
you don't really have any like authority to be that's fine.
Yeah, we
right?
can't. We don't have the authority to do it. And it's like, either this is
It's like you take
true and that's shitty, but you should have changed the registration on the car, or it's like
you take it
it's
up with
complete BS.
Those
right?
are legal matters. That
Yeah,
you can't-
exactly. So it's like,
Wow.
man. I can imagine though being in, like, if that's true and in that situation, like if all that happened and then you get a red light ticket,
Yeah.
that would be super annoying.
the biggest the biggest time suck of the job was when people would send just the check and not the ticket. Because the ticket, you could be like, it's got the information right there. You can look them up. You can look up their driver's license number or their license plate or something. There's some way you can search them internally, and then you'll see the ticket there. If they just send the check, then you're like,
You have to go by their name.
you got to
and
go
that's
by
it.
their name and then be like, okay, which Dan Smith?
Badly written
and then
address.
find the address. You're looking at the return address on the thing. You're trying to suss it out from like what post office it was sent to. And then you got to find which Dan Smith has a ticket on
Wow.
them.
You'd think they would at least like write the ticket number in the memo or something. You like
Nope.
just this like
No, that would bring him joy.
no, but despite the fact that they think that the people they're sending to are crooks and assholes, they still have this amazing confidence that somehow
They'll
it
figure
will
it out.
find its way to the right spot.
The idea and the thing is the ICBC computer system was terrible, right? It looked like a old like library search, like
Right.
it was all in DOS or whatever, and not actually DOS. I'm sure it was a specific language, but whatever. The point is the computers were garbo, but there are, God, at the time I want to say 67 pages of people with the last name Singh, because we have a massive population, and they all have the same last name because they don't
Right. Yeah.
It's okay.
culturally. Kathleen,
All
you
right,
take
so
this.
so BC
Yeah.
has a big population of Sikhs.
Yes.
Sikhs are a religious minority in India who are persecuted against because Sikhs were responsible for assassinating an Indian prime minister back in the day, Gandhi's kid. So anyhow, Sikhs have been persecuted, so a lot of them have come to Canada or just sort of left. And we have a huge population, especially in Surrey and Burnaby and Richmond and Delta and that kind of like South Vancouver area. And they don't really have last names culturally, so
It's like if you're a good Sikh, your name is Singh. It's like your name is Singh. Everyone has the name Singh.
yeah, it's
Basically.
not it's not like how we have in like
There's no family name.
Yeah, it doesn't
Not
really
really.
doesn't really exist like that.
yeah, it's like how like there's only a few family names in like Korea and stuff like that. Kind of the
I said good Sikh. I meant practicing Sikh.
But-
I
but-
apologize.
But then so it's just like, well, we need something for the form.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so
That's-
they all
so they
put
end
down
up-
Singh, and so then they actually told them to stop using Singh, and so then it became like Singh Dhaliwal, and there's 30 pages of that.
Sing some.
And I imagine that there aren't. I mean, they have a normal distribution of first names, but there's still a ton of.
Yeah, so it was very challenging.
Duplicates.
Yeah, very challenging to look that up manually in the back end system. Still, though, the worst part of the whole job was just the entire. I've never worked in a place like that had like the whole massive like union structure, not in my job description, refusal to ever improve anything because it might be stepping on someone else's toes. It was awful. Someone from like licensing came over because someone had sent them a check for something, not for a ticket, but she was like, someone sent this check and I don't know what to do with it. And my supervisor was like, oh, well, that'll be for this department. So
you just throw it into office mail.
send it in the interoffice mail. And she's like, no, I'm not supposed to handle checks. And he's like, I know, I'm telling you what to do. Just put it in that box over there, put it in an envelope, label it to this thing, and interoffice mail will take it there. And she just sort of goes, oh, I'm not, puts it down at his desk and leaves. She doesn't even finish her sentence. She's just like, I don't, puts it down and goes.
I could be fired just for talking to
And
you.
it's like, no, you couldn't.
Just so lazy.
Having worked in telephone support where we actually run into the same number of named people, even it is all public information. Have you run into anyone famous paying tickets?
Oh, yeah. Someone from the Canucks.
Nice.
What was he busted for?
Speeding.
Okay, probably in a very nice car.
Skating too fast.
I think it was him or his wife.
Too hard.
I can't remember. I also can't remember which Canuck.
The scandal will remain covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. It wasn't Luongo. That's all I remember.
Was it one of the Sedines?
No.
Because who can tell which one it is then?
Bum, bum, bum. The perfect crime.
They're twins. That's
yeah,
a joke.
That's the joke.
Ian.
It's a good joke.
Yeah. So I've worked in telephone technical support.
I should briefly mention that my favorite day at that job was the day that I got a phone call from Russ Pitts, then editor-in-chief of The Escapist, telling us that Unskippable was accepted and would be turned into a show. And I took that call in the copy room at ICBC. And I was like, literally, this is where I am right now. And he's like, I want to make you not be there. I'm like,
And
good.
he did.
And he
Thanks,
did.
Russ.
So thank you for that. Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's all right. So I've worked at technical support for ADSL Internet. I've done graphic design for Staples. But today I want to talk about actually my time teaching English in Japan.
Oh boy!
Did you design the bit where the staple and the T is like a bent staple? Was that you?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I know. It was a design for people coming into Staples.
I know. I figured. I just wanted
drug
to-
dealers wanting business cards, that sort of thing.
When I sold phones, it was really easy to tell who the drug dealer were who wanted the phones.
It's really fun when a stripper comes in and wants you to photocopy her poster. Let me tell you that.
The drug dealers who wanted phones, real big jackets,
Do they want like multiple phones at the same time?
talked in clip sentences, only wanted pay-as-you-go phones, because that one didn't require a credit check, and they wanted the cheapest phone you could get.
Right.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
teaching English in Japan.
So for years, I wanted to actually teach English in Japan. I tried to get into the JET program, which is a after university program that the government of Japan brings graduates over and says, teach English in schools.
Really, really competitive.
Yeah, it is incredibly competitive, and if you know too little about Japan, you won't get in. As I found, if you know too much about Japan, you also will not get in.
Oh.
Because they want people who are going to be great representatives of their culture.
And not weeaboos.
So you were
Well, no.
you were contaminated already.
Exactly. I was not going to go, what? When they served me with a school lunch of ramen.
That sounds
be
delicious.
Like, yeah, that's delicious. What are you talking about?
I
This
like
isn't
noodles.
funny at all. Anyway, so I tried for years trying to get into JET. Couldn't get into JET. I just decided one year, screw it, I'm going to Japan to work there one way or another.
Like, is it actually that they didn't want people who were like, Japan's the best?
yeah.
There's definitely a lot of people who are very, very weeaboo who try to get into JET and just don't.
Yeah, I really wanted to get into JET, but I graduated with too much student loan debt and took a job up north instead. So I never got to go teach English in Asia, but I researched the JET program extensively, and basically people were like, "You're going to have to lie and say you don't like anime."
Yeah, JET
was the
is-
advice I got.
I guess like part of the point is, as well as teaching English, you're also representing. You're trying to sort of Western or North American culture.
Exactly.
And so if the person who comes in is only interested in Japanese culture, and that defeats the part of the purpose of the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a cultural exchange. They don't really need underqualified white people to teach children.
Oddly enough, Kathleen, interesting you mentioned lying about not liking anime. So I do like anime. At the time, I also was working with the Japanese Animation Society in Edmonton, running their convention,
Right.
and working with the Japanese consulate in Japan, who also ran the interviews for JET. So I couldn't say, I don't like anime at all. Don't tell them, Toshi,
Yeah.
who was literally on the interviewing board.
Whoops.
Anyway, decided...
Didn't you and or Beej get some sort of like lifetime achievement award from your anime club?
We'll go into that during a different podcast.
that'll be a different podcast
Okay,
about our
okay.
university lives, I think.
That sounds great.
Anyway, decided I'm just going to go to Japan. So I researched a few different companies, ways to get over there. Thought, well, maybe I'll just buy a ticket or whatnot. And found there's a great company called Peppy Kids Club.
Ah!
Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
Do they have a mascot?
Yes, they do.
What is the mascot?
Their mascot is a tiny little dog.
Ooh.
Actually, a family of dogs.
Ooh.
The youngest dog represents the youngest group of kids, which can be part of the Peppy Kids Club, aged 2 through, aged newborn through 2.
Wow.
Then 2 to 5 is
Okay.
the next level.
That seems like the starter level to me.
That should be the starter level.
They're teaching English from newborn to 2-year-olds.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just daycare.
Well, the youngest kids would come in with their mothers, and we'd play games with the mothers and the kids, and just get them exposed to English and foreigners, which is a lot of what teaching English in Japan is acclimatizing people to people of different cultures. Then they'd go up to the elementary school, and then junior high school would be the next level. And then you'd graduate from Peppy Kids Club and have to start going to cram schools for your English. So found out about this company, found out that they were doing interviews in Vancouver. Now, I lived in Edmonton at the time, but as luck would have it, the improv troupe that Beej and I are part of was doing a show in Vancouver that same weekend.
Hey.
So I drove our 16-passenger van that we'd rented for the weekend through downtown Vancouver.
Ugh.
I kid you not, also cutting off a car with Japanese consular plates
Oh no.
to find parking. Aced the interview because they're looking for people who are high energy, hey, improv actor,
Yeah.
and got the job. So I had to cover my own flight over, which is something that Jet covers for you. But at least this company, they brought me into Nagoya, and we did a couple weeks of training, which was just going to the classrooms, learning the lesson plans, learning how to make a lesson plan of your own, shadowing teachers for a while, and then they shipped us off to our own areas. They got us set up with an apartment, which was nice.
Wow.
Makes things a lot easier. And we started teaching.
Sweet.
Is the idea that just by being from North America, you know enough to be an English teacher sort of thing?
There's a lot of that, yeah. It's because, as I said, it's just acclimatization, and a lot of the lessons are just repeat after me. Let's sing a song.
Right. You aren't like teaching them like poetry or
No. It's the most is I like noun.
I feel like maybe if you're teaching like the older kids,
I like noun.
right? Like maybe you need a few more qualifications, but for like a 5-year-old, who cares?
Like it's an after school program. It literally is kind of just daycare. The kids would come every week,
It's daycare with an educational
Yeah.
veneer.
and 3 weeks out of the month, they would have a Japanese teacher who would actually teach them the grammar and whatnot. And then 1 week out of the month, they'd get fun games, white sensei.
Nice. So that there's like that positive association. That's like,
Exactly.
when the American guy comes, we get to play games.
Yes, and boy, did we ever play games.
Hakujin.
Yeah.
Kanada Jin.
Kanada.
Kanada Jin.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
white guys.
you know, if I was looking for, you know, a representative North American, you'd be very good in terms of just a contrasting, you know, if they're regularly being taught by, you know, a small Japanese lady, then you come in for representing the
Yeah.
North American
Big
person.
hairy white dude.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The beard is something that they don't normally
Yeah.
see. So that you'd have kids. It's okay. So the
Would they caress your beard?
yes, they would.
Oh, that's really weird.
I've heard they can be very touchy.
Well, I'll give you an idea of what the environment was like.
What, children or Japanese children?
Japanese children. Like Brad was telling us about the concho.
The concho is a real thing. You fear the
Concho
concho.
is
You fear the concho.
The concho, is, for those not aware, is when kids will put their fingers together, sneak up behind you, and attempt to jam their fingers 3 knuckles deep into your anus.
But by put your fingers together, he means you put your 2 hands together like you're clapping, and then you
Grip the fingers.
you grip all your fingers together except your index fingers.
And you
So-
fold
so
your
that you-
thumbs over top of one another.
So you just have your index fingers as like a
pistol
a
almost.
firm like a firm pistol.
supporting each other. and
Yeah,
just
and then you just go
So-
for it.
So keep your back to the wall. Is that basically
yes,
the objective? Yeah.
that happens.
Do you have to say concho when you do it?
Not always.
Okay.
In fact, that can give away what's about to happen. But you end up getting what's called what we think of as a spider sense. Where's Koshi? I haven't seen Koshi in a few minutes, and I'm too far from the wall. Clench. Safe.
Poke in the butt sense.
Yeah. But Peppy Kids Club is it's the after school program. They'll buy these old abandoned storefronts. Well, not abandoned, but old storefronts, and convert them into classrooms that are all the same. So they'll carpet them over where normally they'd have tatami or things. They'll put up posters. They'll put in a standard set of blocks with numbers and letters on them and all sorts of equipment, and they're sprinkled around communities. So there's no desks. It's free-form, open room. And you sit on the ground and you give flashcards, and kids just crawl all over you.
No,
Why?
Get up in your lap, sensei, hi.
Oh, that sounds
that's weird.
irritating.
You wouldn't like that.
No.
No, it's not the in-school experience, but it was the way I got into it. And it was actually quite a bit of fun. The kids really do love you. And even if you have to help some of them go to the bathroom, you end up
Ow!
loving them too.
Do you
Ew.
get to actually like stay with a group of kids for a significant amount of time?
Yeah, in Pepe, we stayed in one city, and we were stuck there until we asked to be transferred away or whatnot. And the kids stay in the program for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
Usually they'll start at youth, and they'll keep going all the way through.
How long were you there?
I was there for 2.5 years.
Cool.
And I spent 1.5 years in
Where? Did I ask where?
No. 1.5 year was up in Nagaoka, which is in the northern area of Japan on the Sea of Japan side. Pretty about the size of Edmonton, actually, was the city.
Oh, wow.
And then the next year I decided I wanted to actually teach English in schools, like in the JET program.
Right.
So I found another company in Japan who was providing those teachers to schools, Interac. And I worked there for a year just outside of Tokyo in a little community called Noda.
Nice.
So, what is the? I don't want to use the worst, but what is the most ridiculous or interesting thing that happened to you aside from like Concho spider sense
The most ridiculous thing
at
that-
either job?
I think the most ridiculous thing I had was so classes have their own vibe, I guess. And some classes can be very studious, and some classes, all the classes have a leader, I guess you could say.
And sometimes that ringleader's a little shit.
Exactly. So
I'm familiar with that.
I had a group of kids in the Nagaoka area who would not listen to reason one bit. They would not follow they wouldn't follow the curriculum at all. I'd try flashing my flashcards at them, nothing. We ended up just devolving into playing golfing games. I would set up before class this elaborate mini golf set, and I wouldn't let them hit the ball until they'd flash the card and say the word.
Wow.
And eventually,
It's like training dogs.
oh, it was horrendous. I dreaded it each week. I had to go back to that school, and we actually got evaluated on our lessons, once a year at each place. And I was just dreading that particular one because I thought, this is it. I'm going to get fired because the kids just won't listen. And that one day, when their parents are there watching them, and the people from the company are there watching me, they were just perfect little angels.
Those little shits.
We exchanged glances. We both knew what was up at this time.
It's like we're both being evaluated right now.
Yeah.
So let's just call it détente.
Yeah, you know the lesson plan. I know the lesson plan because I made you try to do it every day.
Those little fuckers.
I like that.
But I'll have to. Other ridiculousness, though, I'll have to share with you the good. At the beginning of every lesson, at the end of every lesson, we had to sing a hello song and a goodbye song.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. And they had actions that went along with them, too. I can't
course.
remember the actions, but we started off the lesson with hello, 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 Graham, hello, Paul, hello, Ian, hello, Kathleen, hello, 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 hello.
Did you have to say hello to every person in the class?
You just picked a few people to match the pattern.
Okay.
So then we'd end the lesson with goodbye, goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, goodbye, see you tomorrow. Goodbye, Paul. Goodbye, Graham. Goodbye, goodbye, bye, bye, bye.
I am so glad I did not get a job teaching English in Japan.
Do you ever subconsciously just when Corey is leaving? Just go,
I almost slipped into it during the stream the other day.
I was going to say, did you open your stream like that?
that'd be great. Yeah.
But we'd do the song, and then we'd have to say goodbye and high five the kids on the way out of the classroom.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, some of the kids just really want to leave,
Yeah.
and all the parents are standing outside waiting for them. But we have to make sure that they've got their bags, they've got their cards that they're going to practice for the next week. So you have to keep them from leaving, which meant getting down on one knee next to the open door, sticking your leg out, and just kneeling and blocking the doorway as you check the kids on their way out as they're struggling to get through
physically
you.
blocking it.
That's super weird.
The parents are laughing their butts off watching
So there's no help
big
whatsoever.
white guy struggle with the. Oh yeah, the parents are no help at all.
That's that whole thing is fucked up.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's super weird.
And it's one of the most. It's probably the most fun I've had in a job. Just remembering
What?
it now.
Wrestling a struggling child.
Overall.
Okay.
It was great because it was night work. You'd go in at 5 p.m., teach lessons until 9, take a bus home, grab some ramen at the train station, and then you've got the rest of your evening free.
Oh, I like this. That actually sounds like that sounds
That's
great.
5 to 9. That's late for small children.
Yeah, well, after school.
When do they get out of elementary school?
They probably get out at 3 o'clock, but they've still got their club activities to begin with. And
Well, you remember when we were in Japan, we discovered that it's that at least where we were staying in Tokyo and places is that they follow a similar sort of schedule to
Your
me.
natural schedule.
Yeah, which is like they stay up really late and they don't wake up, and like we were out of bed at 8.
Because I was like, let's see a country.
yeah, and then we were like, there's no one here, and there
There's
was
nothing open.
people weren't like places weren't open. It's 10 a.m. on a normal weekday. Places were not open, and people didn't start like filling the streets until like 11:30 noon.
I know, it was a whole country that runs on Graham's schedule.
It was great.
really bizarre. But talking about jobs, Kathleen, what have you got for us?
Oh, yeah. When I was in high school, really wanted to go to a concert in Vancouver, and my family was poor, and I had no money. And I thought, oh, I'll have to work.
Wait, what was the concert?
It was a big heavy metal show.
Was it like Warped Tour or something?
No, it was Ozfest.
Nice.
Yeah,
There you
because
go.
I was a hardcore teenager.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I need a job. And I need a job that does not require me to work very hard and to stick with that job for very long because I wanted to go to the concert in like a month, right?
So this is like you got the job specifically just
To make
get
money to go to
for this
Vancouver.
one concert.
Yes. Because I am a layabout and did not care about working otherwise.
Well, you're in high school. What do you
I
expect?
was very lazy. I was okay that I didn't have any money. I would rather be poor and lazy than work.
Again, high school.
Nowadays, I'm all about the Benjamins. But at the time, I was like, whatever. I live a simple life. So I got a job because my sister had a job doing this. I got a job riding a Dickie D ice cream bicycle.
Oh, no.
An ice cream bicycle.
Dickie D ice cream.
Yeah, it's like the kind that's like a 1-gear bike with a huge chest freezer on the front, and they're really hard to ride, and they're really hard to get up hills because there's only 1 gear, and they're really hard to go down hills because the brakes are terrible, and they're really heavy at the front.
And they have a massive. You got to be so easy to go forward over the.
Their center of gravity was pretty low. I was always more worried that I would get like if I had to go down a hill that was too steep, I would go out of control and like just fly into traffic.
Murder a child with ice cream.
I was
Spill
too
it
worried
everywhere.
about that.
Did the chest stay closed?
Yeah, there was like a lock on it.
Okay.
Or not like a latch.
Nice. Does it play like a little song as you ride?
No, I had a bite. I had a bell I could flick.
Nice.
So the first couple days I went out and I did not make any money whatsoever. And it was really hard work, and I was like, this is bullshit.
That
Oh,
sounds very very demoralizing.
You were paid
Yeah. You get
based on how many you sold?
yes, you got paid by commission.
Nice.
And then you got tips.
I'm pretty sure that's child labor law.
I
not-
feel
not
feel like this
allowed.
is not technically legal, but it
Yeah.
was run out of somebody's garage, and I did not want to
Oh,
work.
great.
Prince George had
That makes
really.
it legit.
If I had wanted an actual job, I probably would not have been able to get one because my resume was was a complete blank at that point. I had not yet been fired from any of the other jobs I held later in life. And Prince George's economy is terrible and was pretty terrible at the time, right? So it's not like I could go to the mall and get a part-time job at like an Orange Julius or something. Those were hard to get. So if I wanted to get money, I could either sell drugs, which was one of the ways that people I knew made money, or I could ride this Dickie D ice cream bike. So I opted for the Dickie D ice cream
Fair
bike.
choice.
Was this during the summer?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this was actually like at a time when
Yeah,
people would want ice cream.
They didn't do this in the winter, and so I went to did this for a couple days, and just wasn't making any money, and was like, Mrah. And then somebody was like, "Oh, I don't want to go work in the VLA because that area is like gross."
The what?
The VLA is the Veteran Land Association of Prince George, and that is the poor area of town. It's the area I lived in, actually, so I didn't mind working there. So I was like, fine, I'll go there. And I realized I actually made a decent amount of money. And 16-year-old Kathleen clicked into her head after trying to go out and to go to the more affluent areas of town. I realized, holy shit, if you have money, you don't buy ice cream from a Dickie D ice cream bike. You buy ice cream at the grocery store, but it's like $5 or $6.
Right.
But if you don't have any money, you can't afford to buy $5 or $6 ice cream. But especially say at the end of the month when welfare rolls around, and having been brought up and lived on welfare for a while, I knew this. If maybe I don't have $6 to buy ice cream and buy a liter of ice cream for my kids, but I do have $4 to buy a popsicle for each of my children when the ice cream bike rolls around. And I realized that I had been a fool and I was going to the wrong neighborhood. So I started exclusively only working in the VLA and like the really poor neighborhoods in town. And I started making a fucking killing. Because the other thing I realized was that lecherous old men would give me tips. So I wore short shorts and a tank top. It's not like I had an amazing body, but I was still 16.
Jesus Christ.
From an early age, abusing your privilege.
And I made like $1,100 over 3 weeks.
Wow.
And my thighs looked great after that because riding that ice cream bike was really hard. Oh, no. And to my credit, I did not fritter it all away. I was actually really responsible with that money, and it lasted me for months.
How much did you actually need to get to the concert?
Like $400 or $500 for like gas and like my share of camping because we were camping in like North Van.
Ugh.
Yeah, I was a poor teenager.
I know.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, you gotta work that ice cream bike.
The thing
I
is,
never had $1,100 when I was in high school.
Yeah, no. And like I said, I made that money last me for months. Like I bought a bunch of CDs and stuff like that, but only the CDs I really wanted, and like all of those things, and Kathleen in high school, I had no money and my family had no money, so I did all of my shopping at Value Village. So I like bought some new clothes at Value Village and was feeling very spendy, but not really. The first time I bought a full price sweater, it was $40 and I almost had a heart attack. But anyhow, so yeah, that was really fun, and I ended up lending some money to my lousy boyfriend at the time because he did not have enough money. And then when I came back from the concert, I told him I wasn't going to come back and do this anymore because I didn't need to. And the people who ran the Dickie D service were really sad because I made so much more money than anybody else. They're like, do you have any friends you could recruit? And I'm like, no. And that was my brief 3.5 week period riding a Dickie D ice cream bike.
Sweet.
I'm imagining like, of course, I didn't meet you until comparatively recently. And so I'm imagining like the Kathleen that I know doing this and being overly competitive and like the kids running after you and you're like cycling to try and beat the kids.
Get away
it's like,
from
I can ride faster than you.
You'll never get my ice cream.
Get back here and eat this deformed Ninja Turtle.
Yeah. No, if you do find yourself in the business of needing some money quick, and there is an ice cream bicycle company.
Is that something that still is done? Like,
I think so.
I've never seen an ice cream bicycle around Victoria anyway.
I'm gonna look this up.
Anyhow. May I recommend trailer parks at 6 p.m. are the best place to and
6
time.
p.m. Man.
That sounds
Right after
like,
dinner.
That sounds like a really bad, Key and Peele sketch, actually. The little girl riding the ice cream truck through the hood.
Kinda.
Oh,
Whatever.
Dickie D is a Canadian ice cream vendor, so a lot of our viewers might not know.
I didn't know. I didn't know it was Canada only. Oh, look, that's a person on an ice cream bike right there.
Yeah, it's a thing that they did.
They're only ice cream bikes. They don't actually have trucks.
It went into business in 2002.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, you can still go with Terrace Treats.
1959. to 2002.
Things just went straight downhill after you left, apparently.
In 1992, they were sold to Unilever and
Apparently.
became a division of Good Humor Breyers. Good Humor Breyers.
Jeez, they went out of business maybe that's why they stopped being around the next summer.
They maintained the
They
Dickie
went out
D
of business in
brand.
2002, like right after I stopped working there. It's crazy.
They maintained the Dickie D brand and program until 2002. Today, much of the remaining equipment is privately owned by former distributors who are still selling ice cream products as independent operators under a variety of names.
Not like right after, but very shortly after. Maybe my departure was what was the linchpin holding that company together. No! You're the only profitable ice cream bicycle person in...
You're the golden goose.
At its peak, Dickie D had approximately 1,500 operators across Canada and the northern U.S. Ice cream products were sold out of a fiberglass compartment on a modified tricycle.
Oh, they were the worst things in the universe to ride.
They're massive.
They were so big.
According to Wikipedia, they were the worst things in the universe.
They look a little bit aerodynamic, though. So.
Not really. Don't be fooled.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It was huge.
It's way bigger
and
than I thought.
unwieldy and like no gears and like
At least it was a tricycle. I thought you were in danger of falling over.
Ooh.
No. But yeah, and like you realize I'm not a huge person, right? Like, I'm not particularly tall or stocky. So yeah, that was doubly hard.
I mean, yeah, it's basically like, be like doing like the pedicabs here in town or something. Probably a similar weight deal you have to deal
Probably.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if Kathleen had been in Victoria, I might have ended up writing a pedicab. Any place where I get paid under the table really quickly.
Sounds like a pedicab, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, none of this was taxed, by the way. I just got money at the end of the day.
Paul.
All right. Well, I mean, I've been thinking. So one of the things that I did. So I was actually when you were talking about the ICBC stuff, I was just thinking just quickly when the very first job I had was I worked at the library in the in the library system.
The Greater Victoria Library.
Yeah, I went to all the
network.
different libraries,
Right.
as an internet tutor.
Right. I remember you telling me about
So I
this.
would tell, people would sign up for classes on how to use the internet. And I would,
And they were all old people.
Yeah, it was old people. And I also actually even did, I actually had did classes with 10 or 15 people, showing them, basic sort of HTML stuff and things like that. And it wasn't too bad, except, sometimes there's always you had to get, there's a certain thing where there's for some reason, especially Victoria, I guess, because the sort of high tech and stuff, there are a lot of older people who have young children or adult children who work in high tech. And so they give their aged parents a really fancy computer and they'll be like, this is great. You can email me.
Yeah.
Without any instruction as to how to actually do that. And so then the parents are like, I'm supposed to email. I'm not allowed to talk to my kid anymore, apparently. I have to learn the system in order to talk to my children. And
Help.
So, right from how to use a mouse and stuff.
Oh,
Did you tell me about one lady who, when it wouldn't work, she would just start randomly clicking around the screen?
Yeah, that's a big problem that people, that some people panic easily on a computer, shall we say. I'd like to think that maybe in the intervening sort of 10 years or so, people have gotten a little, even people who consider themselves not computer literate have gotten a little bit more, at least comfortable with the technology.
Yeah.
Or at least the people who are completely uncomfortable with it have just decided not to deal with it at all.
so what was the hardest concept for them to wrap their heads around usually? Because I have a theory.
So the actually from the real basic one, the mouse coordination between moving this on the desk and the thing on the screen moves and right and left clicking was tricky. But in terms of internet stuff, this was actually lucky. Man, I would not want that job now because back in the day you could be well, when your thing, usually a link will be blue and underlined. That's something you can click on, which of course is completely not the case anymore.
Yeah, because it was always text.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But,
Web 2.0, man.
Yeah.
So I have to-
What's your theory?
I have to interject about that, the blue underlining.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this ties into it. So my theory was that it's double clicking.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
still have, up till 2 months ago, I had a boss who would double click on everything. They
Well,
would
it's-
click the start button and then double click anything
When
in the
to,
start
when to
button.
double click and when not to.
There are members of my family that still double click on the dock on Mac OS.
Luckily, it's
I
usually
like
okay to
double
do
clicking
that.
things. I'm like,
I wasn't going to name you, but you're one of them.
But the blue underlining of links,
I know what I'm doing. I just like clicking.
the blue underlining of links is a really bad one. I was designing business cards, again, in my just previous job in 2014. And they were saying, could you make the email address and the web address blue and underline it so that people know it's a web address?
And you're like, there's not the www dot in the front. Give it away.
Also, you can't click a business
Yes.
card. But the big thing with that
Put
one,
the
though,
business card under your mouse.
what was interesting
Just hold it to
actually
your
about that
iPad.
one, something that came up fairly, or not that often, but so we were, there's about 5 of us who were working through this program, and we were, very we were very, very young, and we were essentially interns, I guess, is sort of technically it was a special program. It was just
Was it free to them, but the library paid you? It was just like a service the library has provided?
yeah, it's a service the libraries provided for a summer.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was I think it was a good service. And they paid, we were being paid minimum wage or whatever. But there's this thing where for union purposes, because we were not part of the library union,
Right.
for union purposes, because we were sort of working in a technical capacity, they were very explicit that we were not allowed to touch anything, deal with anything technical. Like if the computer that we were trying to teach people on messed up, we weren't allowed to like fix it.
Oh.
Because that had to be done by a computer technician, who was paid a lot more. They didn't want this, them hiring a bunch of young kids, paying them minimum wage, and having them come and fix all their computers.
Right.
Which makes sense, except you got into this weird situation where the librarians, because they weren't supposed to know anything about computers, were allowed to just like mess around and try to fix things on their own. But we couldn't,
because
right?
you
And so, and the problem
Right.
is, this is one of these big things where there's only like 2 or 3 techs for the entire network, and they aren't every library doesn't have its own tech. There's techs that are sort of traveling around.
So you're sticking full scap signs up.
And so there's this thing where it's like there's a problem where there's like a printer that doesn't work, and I'm sort of like, you might want to try this, like sort of trying to like give little suggestions.
Suggesting it to the librarians who won't get in trouble for accidentally fixing it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. It's like, oops, I bumped the reset button. Oh, I'm so clumsy.
oh wow.
Wow.
So weird stuff like that.
I've
But-
had situations like that when I worked at the oil company. I don't know. Perhaps the terms of my termination agreement forbid me from speaking their name, but they're trying to ram a big ass pipeline through Vancouver, and people fucking hate them. So that might tip you off as to who they are.
That could be anyone.
I mean, yeah.
But anyhow, people, because I know quite a bit about computers. My dad is really high up. Doesn't like do tech support for people anymore, but he's an IT manager, and he used to. So I picked up a few hints about dealing with Windows 98, which is what we were still running, by the way. And so people would come to me and they'd be like, why doesn't this work? And I'd be like, all right, so if you do this, and maybe you want to do that, and maybe you want to do that, and that might maybe fix it. And they'd be like, excellent. And they'd leave because they could just come and talk to me, and it would not take 40 minutes on hold on phone to the help desk to hear the same thing.
Yep.
So I got very popular for telling people how to find printers on the
But
network.
you didn't get in trouble for that, though. Eh?
Well, I mean, I was a girl. Why would I know anything about computers?
Right.
Nice. The real story I had was after or sort of during when we were doing Loading Ready Run, but before it was enough to actually be a full-time job, when Graham was doing like ICBC and stuff. Something that I started doing was I did a lot of freelance web development work, and that sort of I had a job that the job that Graham and I both worked at, which was this museum design company, which we can talk about more at some point probably.
Yeah.
But then I got fired from that job or laid off, and instead of going to find another job, I just was like, I'll just do the web development thing more.
Yeah.
And I guess right at that time I had sort of gotten a couple of contracts, and I was like, I could just do this more.
Yeah, I can just do this.
That would be what I'll do. And so
Which is great, because then both of us working sort of independently meant that we had time to do Loading Ready Run. We were flexible with our hours.
yeah. And so I sort of did websites for people, and it's quite a neat thing, like especially if you want to learn a little bit about a lot of different topics, because I did a website about like a company that does flowers, and so in order to do that website you have to like learn a bit about the flower selling
Did like
business.
painting Warhammer figures.
Yeah, and so but the most interesting one was so I answered a job for a thing on Craigslist for because they had technical jobs and stuff, and there wasn't a lot of info about it. It was just like a job, and so I met a guy at a coffee shop for a thing, and it turned out to be a website for the Canadian Navy. So the actual like military, and they were having a conference here in Victoria, and they wanted to have a website to not only be like advertisement for the conference and allow people to sign up, but then also when it was done to have a place to put all the videos and stuff of the things. And so I worked for Her Majesty's government for a little bit.
Nice.
doing this website. But it was this weird situation. So for one thing, in order to do the thing, I actually had to go down to the naval base here in town. Which was pretty intimidating. Like that was there are actually really people with guns that you have to go past, and you have to like give up your cell phone and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm the web developer,
website.
And I like came into this area and like
PHP.
talking to these people, and like this like I don't know how high he was. He seemed like an admiral or something, but probably wasn't. Some sort of high up naval guy with a big beard.
Lots of shiny things on
and
the
lots of shiny
uniform.
things. So he came in. He's like, "So you're the one doing the website, eh? Good man, good man."
You keep
that
doing
stuff.
those internet things.
And so I found out, but the whole deal was that, of course, the Canadian government has people to do websites for them.
Right.
They don't normally advertise on Craigslist.
Yeah.
But I found out, but what it was is that this convention or conference that they were doing was happening in like 3 weeks or 3 months.
Uh-huh.
And if they went through the normal channels, it would have taken not only it would have taken a long time to just go through all the approval systems, but then also like the entire website would have to be translated into French, even though it was in Victoria and none of the people coming would be needing it in French. But because it's an official government thing, it has to be
Has
both
to be in
languages.
Canada's second official language.
Yeah. And so there's like all these requirements that they would have to do if they went through official channels. So this is like a back channel thing. So
Wet work.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll get in trouble for telling you that I was involved with this. But so yeah, so and I did it, and it took like forever to get paid for it. But then then like a couple months later, I got a check from actually like it's from like Queen Elizabeth. Like the check is from like it's as if it's like a personal check from the Queen. I don't know why they do it that way.
Did the memo say pip pip? Or
I feel like Elizabeth is just sitting there signing a stack of checks, and she's like, "This is bullshit."
Why don't we have a thing for this?
Yeah, can't I just use a stamp? Can't I just roll a corgi on it?
Dip a corgi in ink. And
Just a big paw print.
George,
I'm pretty sure.
Prince George, come here. You're not.
I'm
doing
pretty sure
anything
that's
yet.
one of the lieutenant governor's main jobs.
Yeah.
Signing
Just
checks.
Signing on behalf of the Queen. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was pretty cool.
I like that.
Got to do the website for that. But yeah, if you, I highly recommend. If you ever want to just like.
Get a check from the Queen.
No. Well, just if you want to like learn a little bit about a whole bunch of different things, any kind of like, I'm sure like you're talking about doing like the graphic design for Staples, anything like that, where you're like. People are coming to you with like advertise my product or my job or something.
my tits.
then it's like you it's like, oh, that's kind of you learn a little bit about whatever particular topic they happen to be doing.
Okay, hold
third-tier
on.
wrestling and strippers.
So basically, what we've learned
Who
is
just use the worst fonts.
Yeah, oh,
if
yes.
you can learn a little bit about a lot of things if you do web design. Japanese children surprisingly touchy.
Yep.
People will mail dead bugs to ICBC,
Yup.
and there is no amount of tips a 16-year-old girl in short shorts can't earn if she doesn't respect her body. What an
All right.
educational podcast.
I can't wait to hear part 2. I really want to hear what the other guys have done. So yeah, there's our LRRcast on other jobs that we have had.
I feel like I was thinking that some of Alex's jobs might there might be some overlap between that and times you've hurt himself.
The Injuries podcast.
The
Yeah.
thing is, the Injuries podcast probably has a large crossover with the Cringe podcast.
This is great. It's all
just Alex stories.
time is a flat circle.
Yeah.
This podcast is made possible by the kind support of you, the people listening on our Patreon, patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun.
It's your fault.
Yeah. So we really appreciate your ongoing support. It lets us continue to do what it is that we do. So thank you for that. Please check it out. And thank you for listening. And we'll be back next week with the rest of the folks talking about their jobs. So
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.